Tracy Morgan, doing your own research and knockoffs. We're going to get into it. Let's get it. Welcome. First of all, welcome. This is Unsolicited Perspectives. I'm your host, Bruce Anthony, here to lead the conversation in important events and topics that are shaping today's society. Join the conversation and follow us wherever you get your audio podcasts. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for our video podcast, YouTube exclusive content, and our YouTube membership. Rate, review, like, comment, share. Share with your friends, share with your family, hell, even share with your enemies. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about an incident involving Tracy Morgan and an unhoused person. We're going to talk about people doing their own research, and I'm going to give you guys a little breakdown on knockoffs. But that's enough of the intro. Let's get to the show. At what point do you have to give forgiveness and grace? You know, I often talk on this show about forgiveness and grace, and I often talk about how we should do that because when we do that, we're really relieving ourselves from many of the anger, upset nature that we have holding inside of us. It's a way to let go. It's not for them, it's for us. But sometimes the pain is so strong that you can't. And the question is, should you have to? I mean, yes, it is the moral high ground to do that. But do you have to? I don't know. I tend to believe this is a case-by-case situation. Some people say it's black and white, that you always must, or that you'll never have to. There's a reason why I'm bringing all this up. Recently, there was a viral video that happened with Tracy Morgan. You remember Tracy Morgan. He was 30 Rock. He's got a couple of different shows. He just came out with a new show or is getting ready to air where he's a retired NFL player and he's trying to redeem his image. I know him from Def Comedy Jam and Hustle Man. I go all the way back to the 90s with Tracy Morgan. But he was coming out of the Knick game and, you know, he was coming out addressing some of the fans that were out there talking to him and saying what's up. And then one man comes up, says, "Hey, Tracy," or something to that effect. Tracy looks at him and says, "I remember you. You weren't nice to me back in the day." And they kind of go back and forth. And the guy says, "Well, I'm homeless. He's unhoused now." And Tracy says, "What does that got to do with me? I didn't have anything to do with that. I'm sitting here taking care of my kids." And then continues on to greet the other fans and things of that nature. Now, there's been different stories about the history of Tracy Morgan and this man. Some people have said that they were childhood partners or whatever, and the dude used to bully him. Another story that I heard was that they came up in the comedy clubs together, and this guy wasn't the greatest in general. Tracy Morgan isn't coming out saying what the history is. I don't think that he really needs to. And it probably doesn't matter. Me being messy, I kind of want to know, but it really doesn't matter. What matters is the question, do you always have to give grace and forgiveness? And the public reaction to this situation is split. Polarly split. On one side, you got Morgan, you know, Tracy Morgan doesn't owe anyone any forgiveness or any help, right? Because a lot of people were talking about, hey, this person is down on their luck. Tracy Morgan, you're a big star. You can let bygones be bygones, you won. But some people were saying, you know, just because I made it and became successful doesn't mean that what this person did to me still doesn't affect me to this day. You know, you hear stories of childhood bullies reconnecting with those people that they went to school with, not thinking that they absolutely terrorized them and changed their life. They thought it was playful, or maybe they didn't. Maybe they were being mean. And then they reconnect years later, most of the times after high school, right? And they're like, yo, you absolutely ruined my life and caused serious emotional and mental pain to me that I'm still affected with today. And that's a legitimate argument, right? Like some people will say you don't owe that bully any forgiveness or any help. They made your life miserable to the point where it's still affected today. Then there's the other side. And, people are saying it lacks compassion towards someone who's unhoused and vulnerable. And yes, I mean, there's that as well. Like Tracy Morgan is winning in life right now. And this man is unhoused and on hard times. Now, I will say from the clip that the guy threw out the unhoused thing almost as if to make Tracy feel bad about this interaction. But still, nevertheless, my man is on hard times. And I had so many different things rolling over in my head when I saw this clip. Cause I like to sit in thought, right? I love to sit in thought. So I had so many different things running over in my head. One of them was forgiveness versus boundaries, right? Like, yes, once again, like I said earlier, moral high ground is to forgive, but also you can forgive, let go, and still be like, I will never rock with you again. There are certain people in my life that I have forgiven for things that they have done to me, but I'll never rock with them again. And if they came up asking me for stuff, I'd be like, man, I can't. No, I don't even want you in my space, because just because I've forgiven you doesn't mean I forget. Then there's trauma and memory, right? We don't know the specifics of their interaction back in the day. We don't know what this man did to Tracy to make Tracy still hold on to however long it's been this pain or anger or what have you. And then I started thinking about, because this person is unhoused, you have power, class, and celebrity. And whether success changes moral expectations. Because you've made it, we are supposed to say that you have to be morally superior. Not morally superior, but always hold that moral high ground. Why? Just because I've got power, class, or celebrity? I mean, there's the other side of that, right? There's our current president who has power, class, and celebrity and always been an asshole, and never morally on the right side. Don't ever know that he ever has been. But just because he has those things, should we expect that from him? And then, like I said, there's a bunch of things that we still don't know, right? The video was very short. The interaction was very short. There's no clear beginning of the interaction. We don't have the full context of their history. Like I said earlier, we don't know what this man did to Tracy. And Tracy hasn't come out with a detailed statement. And I don't think he will. I don't think he should, because he can't win for losing in this situation. Right? If he tries to explain himself, people might try to minimize his trauma and say, that's all it was? When I don't do this type of trauma comparison. It could have been you stepped on my sneakers, but maybe I had saved up years to get these special sneakers that I always wanted. And because it took me back to a memory that I had as a kid, and I saved up every little last dime that I had to buy these shoes, I bought these shoes, and you stepped on them and ruined them. And you would be like, well, maybe it was an accident. Maybe it wasn't an accident. Maybe that person was jealous and did it on purpose. See, the point I'm trying to say is there are reasons why Tracy Morgan shouldn't come out and say anything, because he can't win for lose, meaning that no matter what he does, people still look at him as a bad guy because of his power and celebrity. But this moment with Tracy Morgan isn't clean, is what the point I'm trying to make. It doesn't fit neatly into a right or wrong. Even if you try to argue those points, they don't, because it sits at an intersection of memory, pain, survival, and visibility. On one side, there's this idea that no one is owed forgiveness. If someone hurt you, embarrassed you, or bullied you when you were younger, time alone doesn't erase that. Healing doesn't automatically mean access. And success doesn't come with a moral text that requires you to reopen old wounds just for public approval. Boundaries can be a form of self-preservation, not cruelty. Let me give you an example. What if a man had sexually assaulted a woman and he felt real remorse for it and he wanted to confront that woman and apologize? Should that woman be forced to be confronted by her abuser, to be victimized over again? I'm giving you not an extreme case in the nature of the action, but not an extreme case of something that isn't possible, right? It is absolutely possible that this would be a situation. Would y'all blame her for not wanting to help an individual that victimized her? I mean, these are the type of questions that you have to ask yourself, and this is the reason why I say it's a case-by-case basis. Once again, we don't know the shared history between these two. But I just gave you an example of which I believe most people would say she doesn't owe her abuser, her attacker, anything. It's just a thought, just something to get you to think about for those people who feel that he absolutely should have helped my man out. But you got the other side. And you got this belief that grace matters more when it's uncomfortable. A person's worst moments don't define their entire life, and desperation changes people. When someone is unhoused and asking for help, the power imbalance is definitely real. And there's definitely a power imbalance between Tracy and this gentleman. Because Tracy is famous, wealthy, and he was surrounded by support. He was surrounded by people who love and adore him. Compassion in that view isn't about the past, it's about who you choose to be now. And there is some truth to that, right? There is some truth to giving that unhoused person some grace, being the bigger man, or what I like to do, being good petty, which is, yeah, I'm gonna help you out, give you a little money to go eat, because I'm winning. Everything that you did to me didn't stop me from winning. And yeah, I'm gonna help you out, but low key, I'm rubbing it in your face. I mean, that's also an option. You know, I mean, that's not having the moral high ground, but that's absolutely something that I would do, because that's kind of who I am, nice petty. But there is that viewpoint, and I understand when people were like, come on, man, you didn't want it life. Whatever he did to you, you winning. Give him a pass. Both perspectives, though, can be true at the same time. It's like I said earlier, I don't believe there is a right or wrong answer to this. And there's a lot of people on both extremes that said it's absolutely the right answer and there's an absolutely wrong. And I don't believe it, that could be so, especially when we once again don't know the shared history. Some people will say the discomfort comes from the fact that this exchange happened in public, on camera, and without full context. Viewers aren't just reacting to what happened, they're projecting their own experiences with bullies, forgiveness, poverty, and with being asked to be a bigger person. You know, that's really was at the heart of this conflict of the polarizing sides. It's beyond Tracy and this individual. We put ourselves in it. And there's a lot of discomfort that comes from the fact that we're looking at this public display and we can't help but put ourselves in that situation and ask ourselves, what would we do? The question isn't really what should Tracy have done? It's not. It's what do we expect people to do when their past walks back into their present? I don't think this moment is about heroes or villains. It's not. It's not about right or wrong or heroes or villains. I think it's about how messy forgiveness actually is and how easy it is to demand grace when it costs us nothing. You see, when it's somebody else, of course you want to say they should give grace. But when you're put into that situation, you want to say, well, I would hope that I would give grace. This is what I would do. But you don't know unless you're in that situation. And I think this situation that happened is a reflection of all of us. And it's an uncomfortable conversation to have, but a real one to have. So I want to know what you think, right? Is grace optional? Or is it the price of healing? Shoot me down some comments and let me know what you guys think. I don't know what the answer is. I told you. I don't believe there's a right and wrong answer. I don't believe there's a hero or villain. We don't know the whole story. And even if we did know the whole story, I'm not going to trauma compare. Oh, that's not as bad. I had something worse. Doesn't matter. Two people can walk the same path in the woods, right? They can stub their toe on the same log. That pain is not the same. The action is, but the pain isn't. I'm not going to say this isn't painful when you're in pain. There's a lot of people that's been cheated on. Hell, I've been cheated on in my life. I told that story. Some people never recover. Some people, it ruins their life. Some people go on the next day like it ain't no thing. The pain is different. Action the same, pain the different. Pain is different. So even if we had the full shared history between these two, we couldn't give it a fair comparison because once again, I don't believe there is a right or wrong answer in this situation. There is no hero, there is no villain. What there is a celebrity and an unhoused person that have a history that we know nothing about. And so I give it to you again. Is grace optional? Or is it the price of healing past trauma? I often get on here and I talk about researching. And I got the benefit, and I know it was a privilege, of one, going to college, right? Like that in and of itself is a privilege. And I'm not saying that people that didn't go to college can't learn these things, what I'm about to describe, because that would be ridiculous. You can. Just college helps you, all right? Gives you guidance, whereas you might not have it if you don't go to college. And I'm talking about researching. All of us in college, even when we took English 101, had to write a research paper. Because I was a double major in secondary education and in history. History alone, all you're doing is researching and doing papers. I mean, very rarely do I remember taking a whole lot of midterms and finals where it's actually like taking a test. Most of the time, it was papers, especially when I got into my upper level history courses. I don't remember in the 300 or 400 level history courses taking tests. Right? I remember writing papers, and I know because I didn't do a good job of setting up my schedule that my last year at the University of Maryland to get that history degree, I had to take all my 400 level classes, right, in history, and all of them were 30-page papers. I wrote, no lie, 5 or 6 30-page papers in my last year of college. That's a lot of research. That's a lot of going in McKeldin Library and doing research, right? And it had to be on point because I'm writing a 30-page paper. I have a thesis statement. I have to prove why my thesis statement is correct. And in proving why my thesis statement is correct, I have to give the counter argument and disprove the counter argument. But it has to be cited. It has to be researched. And I got that gift, I believe it's a gift, of researching from all the work that I did in college. In today's day and age, with social media and technology, so many people are not doing research. So many people are falling for the clickbait. I have more than a few people in my life that send me stuff. And I'm like, so you think this is true? Yeah. Or yeah. Did you do even a little bit of research to find out? I mean, I did my own research. What'd you do with your research? Simple Google searches half the time. No, more than half the time. 85 to 95% of the time. A simple, quick Google search disproves the entire thing. I had somebody tell me that there was a report or a study that said that dairy cream ice cream was a good after workout like protein shake if you had some Dairy Queen ice cream. And I said, that's not true. I've been a fitness professional for over 20 years. That's not true. Not at all. I don't know. I saw it. I saw it a couple different times. Said, where'd you get your information? I saw it. Did a quick Google search. And you know what I found? A whole bunch of Instagram and Facebook posts. Not one study. Said in those Instagram and Facebook posts that it came from the Mayo Clinic. So what do I do as a researcher? Go to the Mayo Clinic. Hey, do the research. Is there any such thing? Not one article. As a matter of fact, it says the opposite in one of the studies. Said one of the studies, excessive red meat and dairy is bad for your health benefits. I pointed to them and I said, this took me 5 minutes to prove to you that this is not correct. Still didn't want to believe me. Still said to me, well, I'm going to do my own research. I just did the research right the hell in front of you. I'm going to do my own research. Okay. Haven't heard that person bring it up again. And I know I won't, because they're obviously wrong. People think they're independent thinkers because they did their own research. But most of the research is happening inside of an algorithm curated environment that already agrees with them. Are people misinformed because they're lazy? Or because the system rewards certainty, not curiosity? And that's a very important question, as I have not just people that are cursory, people that are in my life, that are important in my life, that send me stuff. And I say, you have got to get out of this algorithm. Not everything that you get is true. And you're getting too much of this negative information. You don't need to be bombarded. To be woke, the true definition of woke, is to be aggravated because you see the truth, not this curated truth that only backs up your arguments, the truth. And it's aggravating. And if you're constantly seeing that, it's only going to put you in a bad mood. But it bothers me. Because do your own research used to mean reading books, multiple news sources, experts who disagreed with each other. That's what it meant to do your own research. Now what it means is TikTok trends, YouTube clips, Twitter screenshots, and someone confidently saying they don't want you to know this. Most people aren't researching. They're collecting evidence to support what they already believe. And I'm not just talking about other people. Sometimes I do that and I catch myself. I'm a natural contrarian. I naturally want to see what the other side of the story is, but sometimes I'm so entrenched in my position and I don't even want to hear the other side. I have to check myself. I have to see, okay, what are they talking about? Do they have any point or are they absolute idiots? 9 times out of 10, they're absolute idiots. But I still have to check myself because I don't want to become the people that I'm accusing of being ignorant. And then when did doing your own research turn into watching someone else's summary? There are people listening and watching this. Y'all know I do my research. Y'all know I absolutely believe in what I say, even when I fumble my words. Y'all know what I mean. But that doesn't mean that you should take my absolute word for it. You need to do your own research. And that means you got to read books, you got to go to multiple news sources, and you got to see those people, those experts that disagree. And then why do people say the phrase after they already made up their mind, doing their own research? They've already made up their mind. They're not doing their own research. What they're looking for is confirmation bias. Generally speaking, we search for, believe, and remember information that supports what we already think. We search questions like, is this true? That's what we should be doing. But instead of putting that in the search, we do, why is this true? We ignore sources that complicate the narrative. We treat disagreement as corruption, not information. But there's an important distinction, because just because someone has a bias doesn't mean that they're dumb. Biases mean the brain wants comfort and certainty. And I gotta point this out there to the audience. Have you ever caught yourself Googling something in a way that guaranteed the answer you wanted? Maybe you didn't realize you were doing it, but if you look back and you see the words and the way they're formed into that sentence, you may have phrased that question in Google or that search in Google to guarantee that you get the answer that you wanted. And is confidence mistaken for intelligence online? Yeah. There's a lot of people that speak with such great confidence. A lot of confident fools out there. A lot of them. People that are against a lot of the things that I say will say that I'm a confident fool. I'm not. I'm a confident, intelligent person. But people will say that. And people will speak with such command and such authority that they like, how do you think Trump got in office? How do you think he got in office? Even if you don't like the way he speaks, even if you think he's using adjectives a third grader would use, he speaks with confidence. He believes delusionally in his head everything that he says. And that comes through the camera to somebody who wants to support him, who wants to believe in what he's saying, because he's saying it so confidently. But you got to be careful about the algorithm, because the algorithm is an invisible co-author. Your feed is not neutral. It's trained. And we all know this, and we still all fall for the example. It's not neutral. We are training the algorithm to give us what it thinks we want. The algorithm doesn't care about truth. The algorithm cares about watch time, engagement, and emotional reaction. The algorithm learns what makes you pause, what makes you angry, and what keeps you scrolling. You click on a topic, platforms assume that there's an interest or agreement to that topic. It shows you more extreme versions of that topic. Because of that, your worldview starts to tighten, and opposing views start to disappear in this algorithm. Two people can watch the same event unfold and get entirely different explanations, villains, and facts. We see this every day. We saw with the killings of the two people in Memphis. We saw it with George Floyd. We really saw it with Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin. Everybody saw the videos. It was right there. But what we got from it was different. What each person got from it only confirmed their own biases. And the algorithm kept feeding us that. Each TikTok that you saw on the subject, each YouTube reel you saw on the subject, each Twitter post you saw on the subject, you click on it, you like it, you dislike it. The algorithm's going to give you more of that heightened. It's your co-author. And I got to ask you, do you think that your feed challenges you or flatters you? Because it's just giving you more of what you want. And if you keep going down those paths of only choosing the stuff that you want to see, well, don't the opposing voices disappear? I know there's a lot of situations where there is no other side. There's a lot of situations where it's clear, black and white, what's right and what's wrong. However, a way of listening to other people is about learning how they got to that wrong. And in the process of learning how they got to them wrong, you can decide to give them grace or not, depending on how they got there. You know, I'm not telling anybody what they got to forgive or give grace to. But it gives you a clearer context of how people get to where they start to think. That's the reason why I always ask people questions about, how'd you get to that? What made you come up with that rationale or ideal? You can learn. You can learn what they're doing. I got another question for you. If someone only watched your algorithm, what version of reality would they think exists? But it goes back to these missing voices. When you don't hear opposing voices, the issues feel simpler than what they really are. Your moral certainty increases. Dehumanization becomes easier. That's the reason why you see like so many people can't understand how you can see the images of what ICE is doing to these people and not feel some type of way about it. How you can immediately just say, well, they're here illegally. How you see these people treated as animals and not have any empathy whatsoever. You trained your algorithm to tell you that these people weren't human, that they weren't worthy of empathy or respect. You've dehumanized them. And we've done it. We've done it all the time. Every war that we've ever been in the United States, we always dehumanize the other side. That's the reason why it's so easy for us to see the massacres and think nothing of it. We drop bombs, atomic bombs. Millions of people killed. We had no choice. Okay. Was Japan going to give up? Hell no. But there were other options. But we didn't think of them as people. They were dehumanized. And the algorithm keeps pushing us in that direction. People think everyone agrees with me. Why? Because that's what I'm getting in the algorithm. Anybody who doesn't is evil or stupid. They must be the minority. Why? Because everybody does in my algorithm. Nuance disappears. Why? Because everybody's saying the same thing in my algorithm. And complex issues turn into team sports. That's how our political landscape has turned into what it is today. People say, oh, you're a Republican. Ugh. You're a liberal. Ugh. You're a conservative. Ugh. Everybody's pick their team. And everybody that's against your team is the enemy. You don't think the algorithm has done that? Whether it was on purpose or not, it was a man-made creation. We created that. But that's what it's done. That's what it's doing. That's what it's continued to do. But this is how major situations become fractured. Same protest could equal freedom movement or riot. Same medical issue could equal public health or its control. Same political decision could be democracy or tyranny or tyrannic. Y'all know the word I'm trying to be. Y'all know. Tyrannical, okay? Democracy or tyrannical, authoritarian. Y'all know. Speech impediment. Let it slide, okay? If the algorithm never introduces you to friction, now think about this. If the algorithm never introduces you to friction, your thinking never develops muscle. What happens when you push weights around? You're training your muscle. Your muscle grows. If you are not giving your brain friction, because the algorithm is only giving you certainty, and you're not developing your thinking. I'm just saying, you're not. So I got to ask you, when was the last time your mind actually changed about something? When was the last time that you were steadfast in a belief? Someone confronted you with an opposing view, and you were like, you know what? You make a damn good point. Mine happened when I was 10. I am not bullshitting you. It happened when I was 10. It was during the happened when I was 8. It was during the 1988 presidential election. Abortion was a big issue. And I said, I'm not for killing babies. And my dad, my dad's a genius. Both my mom and dad are geniuses. They always forced us to think. They always gave us friction. So we worked that muscle thinking. And he said, okay, son, what if your mom or your sister were assaulted and got pregnant? What do you think then about abortion? Now I'm 8. And he had produced some friction. And I had to sit back and think about that. And I said, oh, maybe I'm not pro-life. Maybe I'm pro-choice. Maybe the situations dictate the actions. So I ask you, when was the last time your mind actually changed about something? Oh, and here's another thing that people don't think about. Is disagreement still seen as growth or as a betrayal? Now, in some instances, both things can be true. Disagreement can be seen as growth because when you have friction, once again, you work out your thinking, which is so very, very important. However, there have been some people that have been close to my life that I disagree with because they support President Trump. And the first time I gave him a pass, the second time I said, I can't rock with you. This third time, after not rocking with him, I said, I'm never going to deal with you again. Because this isn't a disagreement on political issues. This is a disagreement on moral issues. And I just choose to not have you in my life. So disagreement can be seen as growth or betrayal. But your social media doesn't just reflect belief, it rewards certain beliefs. Certainty over curiosity, I said it earlier. Outrage over explanation. Confidence over accuracy. Speed over reflection. And here's why wrong ideas spread so fast. Emotional content travels further. Calm corrections don't go viral. The most extreme version of a belief gets the most attention. We know that. Look, very rarely do I get extreme on here. No, maybe that's an exaggeration. But most of the time, I'm trying to calmly give corrections to what I believe people are wrong on. But that's not clickbait. It's not. And yes, you're listening to watch the show because Do you think what I have to say is at least well-researched and well thought out? Or you agree with it? Or maybe you hate watch, right? Maybe it's those things. But we are not going to blow up off of a viral moment because I don't talk that way. I won't be disingenuous. So calm will never get the attention. Extreme gets the attention. But how is this all connected? Because I was talking about research. How is this all connected to research? People mistake repetition for validation. Seeing the same claim everywhere feels like proof. If misinformation spreads faster than corrections, how do we even keep up? And does truth even matter? Or just your truth? When people stop seeking other views, when they stop doing research, and they start speaking in a dominant tone, they begin to speak against those that are opposed to them. They pile on, they do mockery, they do misinterpretations, and they do this so people stay quiet, self-censor, and retreat to safe communities. I got a friend, anytime we used to get into debates, we would go back and forth, and I knew I always had him, and I won a debate, whether he would admit it or not, because he would start to personally attack me. If we were having a basketball debate, and he knew that I was winning the debate and what I was saying was actually right, but he didn't want to admit it. He would say, "What do you even talk about basketball for? You never played in the NBA. You wasn't good enough to play in the NBA. I mean, you was all right, but you wasn't good." He would do personal attacks. That's what people do. When they don't want to hear your arguments, they will try to pile on, mock you, and misrepresent you so that you stay quiet, self-censor, and retreat to safe communities. And a lot of people do that. And what this does is it creates louder extremes, silent moderates, and a warped sense of public opinion. When silence feels safer than curiosity, the loudest voices define what is reality, and we see that right now. And I got to ask you, have you ever not posted something because you didn't want the smoke? I could tell you for a fact that there have been times where I did not post certain clips because I was just like, I don't feel like hearing the backlash from this. So there are times where the negative mocking will have you self-censor. And I'm realizing that right now as I speak to you guys, and I'm not going to do it anymore. I don't give a damn. It's the reason why our Charlie Kirk tape is behind a paywall. I should just put that bad boy for everybody to hear, because I'm not backing off of my stance on that situation. So these are the things that social media algorithm and not doing your own research can cause. But you got to break that loop. You got to follow credible people that you disagree with. You got to read past the headlines. You got to read the entire article, and you got to ask, who benefits from this framing? What voices am I missing? You got to slow down your engagement. Don't instantly like and share outrage content. Search outside your feed intentionally. Your clicks are training data. You are teaching the algorithm who you are. And do you think people actually want more of a challenging feed? If there was a diversity slider, do you think folks would use it, or would they turn it off? I'm going to just leave you guys with this. Real research is uncomfortable. Real thinking involves friction. Certainty feels good, but curiosity makes you smarter. If your feed disappeared tomorrow, how much of your opinion would still exist? You got to ask yourself that. Are your opinions formed by your thoughts and research or by the algorithm? Do a 1-week feed audit. What topics dominated? What viewpoints were repeated? What's missing? You got to intentionally follow one credible voice outside of your lane. And by the love of God, when you say you're doing your own research, don't let the algorithm do the research for you. You do truly your own research. I was sick right around Thanksgiving. And I have this routine every time that I get sick that there's certain things that I eat just because they make me feel better. They don't really make me get better as far as the sickness is concerned, but it's like comfort food, right? And in that comfort food is always Chinese food because, look, let me get some combination lo mein, always my comfort food. Of course, ginger ale. I take ginger ale and mix it with orange juices because, I'm getting vitamin C plus ginger ale because it cures everything. And I take my medicine, and then I get cereal. And it's always Captain Crunch and Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Love those two cereals. And I also like, can't even think of the name of it right now. It's crunchy. It's got almonds in it. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But most of the time, Captain Crunch is my favorite cereal. And Cinnamon Toast Crunch, my favorite cereal. Like 1A and 1B. And so I will buy both of them. So I was sick and I really didn't want to walk to the store because I didn't want to leave the house because I was sick. So I was like, let me just order some stuff off of Amazon. And sometimes ordering stuff off of Amazon is cheaper. Sometimes it isn't. There are no knockoffs. It's only name brand stuff. And I'm okay with that because most of the time I prefer name brand stuff. So I get my Captain Crunch cereal and I'm eating it. I go through the box within a couple of days. So I got to go get some more Captain Crunch, but I'm feeling better. So I decided to walk to the grocery store. And as I walked to the grocery store, I grabbed the bag of Captain Crunch and then I looked down right below it is the knockoff version of Captain Crunch for $4 less. I'm like, you know what? Let me try it. Looks the same. Probably tastes the same. Let me try it. Now, a lot of people grew up and your parents might buy you knockoff fruit snacks. We didn't have fruit roll up. We had fruit by the foot. Okay. We didn't have Welch's Chews. We had Juicy Chews, right? To us as kids, they taste dramatically different. As adults, So I decided to grab this knockoff brand of Captain Crunch. Took it home. What do y'all think I thought about that knockoff brand of Captain Crunch? Well, I'm going to tell you. Poured myself a big-ass bowl of it. Sat down on the couch. Started watching whatever thing that I was streaming. I was binging something. I don't remember what it was. Took that first bite and said, this tastes just like Captain Crunch. That moment right there is how knockoffs work. Not just in Captain Crunch's cereal, but in soap, fashion, beauty, tech, everything. That's how it works. And today, I'm going to be talking about knockoffs because knockoffs are everywhere. And people think what's happening behind the scenes is one way, but I'm going to give y'all what's actually true about these knockoffs. As soon as brands become an identity, a status, copying became inevitable. Logos turned products into symbols. Nike with the swoosh, Adidas tracksuits. And I'm only going in my lifetime, right? Guess jeans, you had that little triangle on the ass. You was doing something with yourself. If you ain't had the triangle on the ass, it's like, those ain't no Guess jeans, those Bugle Boy. I know the difference. And you got the triangle. And that triangle got to be right. I know a couple of cats that tried to rock fake Timbs. I know a cat that bought Timbs, and because the tree outline was kind of shadowed in, they took a black pen and colored in that tree to show that nobody could question whether they were real Tims or not. They're a status symbol. Once something signals who you are, people want access to that look. Knockoffs didn't start because people are cheap. They started because brands stopped selling just quality and started selling meaning. The second a brand became a flex, somebody was going to fake it. So a lot of times people want to do a catch-all when they talk about knockoffs. And there is a difference. There is 3 different things that describe what a knockoff is. First, you have what actually is a knockoff. It's inspired by a look. It's not pretending to be the real brand. It has a legal gray area, right? Then there are counterfeits. They use the logo and the name. They're meant to fool you, and they're flat out illegal. Then there are dupes, okay? And these are rebranded knockoffs sold as a smart hack, framed as consumer savvy and not fraud. We use knockoff like it's one thing, but it's really 3 different situations. And people think they know what's going on with these knockoffs, right? It's made in the same factory. It's literally the same product without the logo. Nah, sometimes it's from the same region, rarely the same standards. Real brands have quality control, material specs, legal contracts. Unauthorized, not the same product, okay? This leads me to another thing that I bought recently, Knockoff. I love Dove body soap. It gives me a great lather when I'm lathering up in the washcloth or the loofah. And if I can't get a great lather, I don't think I'm really clean. Y'all know, because y'all listen and watch the show, I'm very particular about germs and cleanliness and all this type of stuff. Look, if my whole body doesn't look like soap, I don't think I'm clean. I do not like these soaps where you can barely see the lather. I need a super lather. Dove gives me that. It gives me a fresh feeling. I rinse it off. There's no residue. Always smells good. Does what it's supposed to do. My skin feels good. Go ahead and add some lotion to it. Skin feels soft except for my heels on my feet. And that's the reason why I need a pedicure, but that's a different story. I needed to buy soap the other day. I wanted to order from Amazon, but this was during a snowstorm, and I needed soap now because I done ran out of body soap. You would think that I have loads of body soap around, and I did. I just ran out of them, okay? So Amazon wasn't going to get it to me for a couple of days, and you're thinking to yourself, but Bruce, you didn't leave the house. Yeah, but you still know that I take 2 showers a day, 1 in the afternoon, one before I go to bed. That's just the way I do it. So I needed to go get some soap. So I go over to the local grocery store. Not going to say the name of the grocery store, but I go over to the local grocery store, going to go buy my soap. There's a knockoff version of the soap, and it's half the price. Looks the same. I've got knockoff versions of Dove from other stores, and they were cool. I'm going to save $5. Let me do that. So I get this soap, jump in the shower that night, pour the soap in my loofah, doing my normal rubbing it together to get that lather going like I do anytime I'm doing with the Dove soap. The lather isn't lathering. Not the way I want it. It almost feels like the soap disappeared. Where the hell is the soap? So I'm like, maybe I just need to start rubbing on my body, and then that lather will kick up. So I'm rubbing it on my body, and it feels like I'm rubbing the Vaseline on my body because it's rinsing off, but it ain't rinsing off, and it's definitely not lathering up. So I said, okay, maybe I just need to add more soap because this is a knockoff. Maybe I just need to add more soap. So I squeeze the hell out of the bottle and pour a handful of soap in this loofah. And I'm lathering up. It's still not getting lathered. It takes me 3 times to put soap on this loofah to get the lather that's half of what Dove would do. I said, I'm never doing this again. I'm never getting that soap ever again. Captain Crunch was successful. This grocery store fake Dove, not successful. Look the same, but it's clear. Didn't have the quality controls as Dove. Didn't have the material specs as Dove. Damn sure didn't have the legal contracts as Dove, which means it was not the same product. Looked like the same product, was not the same product. Another myth from these knockoffs that people love to say is nobody gets hurt. It's just rich companies losing money. Well, here's the reality. Consumers get hurt when fake cosmetic cause reactions, fake electronics fail or catch fire, or brands get blamed for declining quality when the product was never real. That's the reality. Counterfeits are often tied to bad labor conditions and crime networks. Instead of that Gucci, you got that hoochie. And that hoochie was cheap, looked like Gucci, but what you did was fund a crime syndicate. And those people that put that hoochie bag together for you, they working in horrible conditions. But you got you a fake Gucci. It's a whole hoochie bag scenario. All right? But if fake products hurt you, is it still harmless because you saved money? You see what I'm saying here? Here's another thing people always say. Knockoffs are always trash. Here's a reality check. Some are garbage, like that soap. Some are good enough to fool people, like that Captain Crunch cereal. That's why authenticity exists now. Look, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. You take your choices. Take your choices, pick your choices. You live with the scenario. I wasted money on that half-price soap. And don't even when I use it 3 handfuls on the loofah, still don't give me the lather that I need. I got my Dove in there now, so I'm good to go. But I also know Captain Crunch don't necessarily have to ever get my money again, because that knockoff brand at the grocery store tastes the exact damn same. And you know, I did day by day comparisons. Tastes the same. Cannot decline that. So here's another one. Another myth that people like to say about knockoffs. Big brands don't copy. Here's the truth. Big brands copy too, especially smaller designers and street culture. The only difference between the two is lawyers and power. The same industry yelling about fakes quietly borrow from people who can't fight back. So even the brands that you love are stealing and copying. I'm just saying, sometimes those big brands have knockoffs too. Why are knockoffs so popular? Well, that's simple. People want the look without the price. If you can get a deal, you can get a deal, right? Speed also. Trends die fast. You don't want to invest in something that's going to just be out of style within the next season. And then there's also rebellion. People love sticking the middle finger up to the luxury gatekeepers. I think that's the reason why Nike and Jordan brand are starting to fall off. These young kids is just like, I don't need to wear those shoes, where my generation will literally have killed for those shoes. Dupe culture is something completely different. It's framed as smart and not shady. Why pay more when this is basically the same? But back to my soap. I paid less and it was nowhere near the same. I would rather pay double for my Dove that gives me that extra lather that I so desperately love. But let me just frame it all with a couple of questions that I want to direct to you guys. Have you ever bought a knockoff or a dupe and felt justified? And where do you draw the line? Is it price? Is it quality? Is it ethics or vibes? For me, Costco's Kirkland brand tequila is one of the best tequilas, and I'm a tequila connoisseur. One of the best tequilas that you could buy. You can get a 1.75 liter for under $30. That's one hell of a deal. And I put that tequila and have done blind taste tests with friends up against the name brands. That Captain Crunch was delicious. Once again, that grocery store soap was the shits, okay? But where would I draw the line? For me, it's always price. If there isn't a big price difference, I'm going to go ahead and get that name brand. But if there's a huge price difference like it was for that soap, I'm going to at least give it a try. If your favorite brand was caught copying a smaller creator, would that change how you feel about fakes? Yeah, you think fakes are just those knockoffs. But as I said, they come with big brands. Big brands do that stuff too, I told you. Sometimes knockoffs expose how much we're paying for the story and not the product. Just think about that. And if y'all want to hear which store I bought that soap from, it'll be in the After Hours Uncensored. I'm gonna talk about it there. Y'all can check it out on our Patreon or YouTube membership. I'm not gonna throw that company under the bus, even though it was the same store that I bought that knockoff Captain Crunch. It's just, sometimes you just never know. You just never know. But I do know there is no way in hell I'm ever buying that knockoff soap again. I had to damn near pour the whole bottle just to get a decent lather. It was ridiculous. But anyway, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for watching. And until next time, as always, I'll holla. Woo, that was a hell of a show. Thank you for rocking with us here on Unsolicited Perspectives with Bruce Anthony. Now, before you go, don't forget to follow, subscribe, like, comment, and share our podcast wherever you're listening or watching it to it. Pass it along to your friends. If you enjoy it, that means the people that you rock will enjoy it also. So share the wealth, share the knowledge, share the noise. And for all those people that say, well, I don't have a YouTube. If you have a Gmail account, you have a YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can actually watch our video podcast and YouTube exclusive content. But the real party is on our Patreon page, After Hours Uncensored and Talking Straight-ish. After Hours Uncensored is another show with my sister. And once again, the key word there is uncensored. Those are exclusively on our Patreon page. Jump onto our website at unsolicitedperspectives.com for all things us. That's where you can get all of our audio, video, our blogs, and even buy our merch. And if you really feel generous and want to help us out, you can donate on our donations page. Donations go strictly to improving our software and hardware so we can keep giving you guys good content that you can clearly listen to and that you can clearly see. So any donation would be appreciative. Most importantly, I want to say thank you for listening and watching and supporting us. And I'll catch you next time. Audi 5000. Peace.